Hello, hello. Oh my. It's just so
Oh,
lovely to be here with you all,
oh,
really.
oh, I know
It's
it is.
it's just lovely. It's lovely to do this. It's lovely to be sharing this space with everyone and well, going aimlessly nowhere and yet delighting in the isness of this really. And we have no context in the exposure of non-duality to take us somewhere else, but and neither do we have a context to keep us here where we presently are. The radical exposure of this divine madness is that everything is equally this, whatever it appears as, whatever it looks like, whatever we seem to say or express, whatever we look like or whatever we do like, everything is equally this, what appears to be happening. You can't go wrong or right with that. And that's what I like to emphasize here is that everybody here is just bathing in and as this immediacy without ever going in the right or the wrong direction. So whether we talk about non-duality or what we're having for dinner tonight or yoga and meditation, whether we talk about Buddhism or philosophy or manifestation, it's all the same. It's all what's happening. It's all this. Everything is this. Um, Sometimes through our conditioning, psychologically speaking, and perhaps tribally speaking, we can very easily hold on to things. That humans seem to like to do that. We like to hold on to things as though we have some kind of sense of security, and we have a framework of understanding reality, how reality works or how it appears. And we might develop, yeah, an identity around what we've heard from people, and that can shape and form and seemingly materialize in any imaginable way. But really, in this dynamic exposure of reality, there is nothing to hang on to. There's nothing to hold on to in any which way. So even believing that there's no one is not what this is about. Believing that there's no doer is not what this is about, even though that's what gets said. Even though that is exposed, it's not that it's not that someone is supposed to adopt that as a belief system, as a new belief or assumption of reality. And so, whatever you think, feel, or believe, and whatever we speak about, and however we speak, is all equally what's happening. Um, so, this isn't about splitting hairs. This isn't about who can, word this the most articulately, intricately, or poetically. This isn't about anything other than what's simply happening, what's simply arising spontaneously in the timeless moment and in the spaceless ether of this gloriously vibrant void. So, whatever we say, whatever we do, whatever happens here is all equally this. It's all equally the same. Yeah. And what that could also mean is that everything that I'm saying right now is is absolutely irrelevant. It's divinely irrelevant, you know, whether I riff on the nature of consciousness or time or space or my favorite Netflix show. It's just happening. Yeah, everything is just happening. Yeah. So this carries no direction to any imagined destination. And yet, sometimes we talk about those things. Sometimes we talk about wants, needs, desires, and preferences and relative and practical stuff. I don't see the need to sort of dismiss or disregard any of those appearances because that's all what's appearing too. So we talk a lot in stories and we talk a lot about stories and all of that's embraced. Nothing is excluded. So sometimes, and hopefully I'm not going too much on about this, but sometimes we can think non-duality is a bit of an exclusive message, but I would actually propose that it's an inclusive message, which basically means that whatever's happening, it's this. Yeah. So there's nothing that's not this. That really is unconditional. So everything is this. Everything. Everything is this. That means everything is included in and as this. So that's the great equalizer, the great equalizing nature of this space that we hold together. And it's lovely, really. It's lovely that we can talk about that and sit around and chat. And there's a welcoming, I would like to propose that there's a welcoming nature in that. Because anyone, could say almost anything. I mean, there's certain things that might not be considered appropriate, obviously, but for the most part, there's just an acceptance and an open space of allowing what is, yeah, without judgment, without constriction, without confining. There's just an openness. Yeah. And I think that seems to relieve something for many of us. Yeah, it's a very relieving energy when we don't have to be a certain way or think a certain way. We don't have to feel a certain way. You can just be as you are, basically, already. There's no one there to be anything other than what they are. There's no one there to be as they are or not be as they are. So everybody is already just essentially a beautiful diamond of the void of vibrancy. Yeah. A gem, a precious, unique gem in the shunyata of all that is. Yeah. So here we are to bask together, to chat, whatever comes up for anybody. I would love to hear any reflections, any sharings, poetical utterings or ponderings, questions, whatever's coming up. Just feel free to share it away on YouTube and Zoom. Here we are in the hybrid realm of no separation.
I'll go first.
Oh, yes.
Hi, everybody. Um, so it's been a minute. It's been since Thursday. I last time here, and I was freaking out over my grandson. And
Yeah.
but I do just want to share, like, in the midst of that, the first night he went in, and it was just a few hours after you and I were speaking and telling you how lucky I just felt. I just feel lucky, you know, to for this it just aliveness. And there's just this feeling of such gratitude. And a couple
Mm,
hours later my grandson's in the hospital with a brain bleed. And what the hell, so my daughter was having a come apart. We were all kind of having a bit of a come apart and freak out. And I was sitting with her and I said, in that moment, it was so hard. The mind was just didn't know what to do with this, but just to feel what was happening. And
mm,
the sadness around it, the grief, the fear. He may not come out, that was just it. But then I had this 17-year-old little girl coming apart, and I said, there was a time I really believed that uh, that we could prayer visualization could help. There really was a time I really believed that. And I said, I don't know what the hell belief is anymore, but there's no harm in trying. There's no
mm,
harm in visualizing my grandson coming home happy. And
mm, mm,
there's no harm in that. Why the fuck not?
mm,
Anytime I use the word, well, I believe. I can't even use that anymore. 'Cause I
Yeah.
believe, there's no that, but there is an immediate, like, why not try this? Let's try this. And it was the next day, that Thursday, that we had the manifestation meeting, and how I felt about that. And I came, and the next day they did the angio, and y'all, the next day he can't find anything. They can't find anything. They're, the brain must have absorbed the blood. There's nothing wrong. Uh, and who the hell knows, but who the hell cares at this point, right? Just,
Wow.
wow. Um, yeah. So, and the word prayer too, like that was such a, when taken on the belief of there's no one and there's nothing, and that does, fuck, man, what a relief for that to be just blown open. You know, like if somebody wants to pray for me or pray for something, like hell yeah, bring it on. Let's pray. Why
Yeah,
not?
absolutely.
I, I fucking love it so much.
Mm,
Such gratitude.
mm, mm,
And then to be able to have some friends to share and talk and be with.
mm.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
So thanks for exploding with me.
Thank you, Jennifer. I really
Mm,
feel, ugh, I can't even express how much that means to me just for you to share all of that, and the tenderness coming through.
yeah.
And I so resonate with all of that. Someone or no one, who cares? We, belief is powerful. It is. Belief, whether you believe it or not, it's powerful. It does move through the body. It's an energy. Yeah. We all carry beliefs, whether we realize it or not. Yeah. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. And so, yeah, prayer does, it does appear to have a frequency, a vibration. Yeah. Doesn't mean anything the so-called grand scheme of
Right.
things, in the
Right.
absolute reality. But then what that doesn't mean that it can't happen, shouldn't happen, wouldn't happen, couldn't happen. It just is. Yeah. That's the nature of this unconditional splendor, that anything can appear and you'll never go wrong
Mm.
or right. So absolutely, yeah, blowing the doors open of what at first may have seemed like a message of freedom, to then solidify as a new constricting belief system. Yeah, that's what we as humans are susceptible to doing with so-called non-duality message. At first, it seems so freeing because it blows the doors open of reality. It exposes that everything is this, there's no one there. And then sooner or later, for some of us, if not many, this starts to cement in as a new way of thinking and believing. There's no more or different, no more or less than, believing in Catholicism or Islam or Buddhism, yeah, or any other.
Yeah, I did like it though. I liked that part of it, that phase of it.
Yeah.
I liked the rigidness because I've never been really rigid. I've always been open and it's all
Mm,
good. So that part of the journey, it helped me to like say fuck off, and to have finally have an opinion of my. Not even I've had opinions, but you know what I mean. Like I
yeah.
liked that phase for a minute, but it was a stuckness. There was. It did become pretty rigid, but yeah. I liked getting angry. I liked being able in a healthy way, like, yeah,
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Something in me did too, actually. Yeah. It felt
Mhm.
like, oh, what a relief. Emotions can just express themselves fully in all their glory. Whether it's anger or joy, it's all allowed. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what this is really interesting, what's really interesting about this is that joy can be joy, sadness can be sadness, anger can be anger. Everything is equally this. Um, there's a great freedom in that, and also meditation can be meditation, prayer can be prayer, manifestation can be manifestation, non-duality sessions can be non-duality sessions. Everything is allowed. Yeah. Believing in this, not believing in this, it's all allowed. Yeah, that's great. And as soon as something comes in and says, I'm sorry, that's not allowed, well, then it's like, reality is trying to cement itself again. Yeah, which is okay. That's all part of the freedom too, right? But it's a kind of constriction that humans are susceptible to doing. And I see it. I see it within myself. I see it within others. It's something that humans are susceptible to doing. There's nothing wrong with it. There's no judgment about it. But when it does appear to happen, something in this system has a tendency to say, hold on a minute. This is a kind of constriction coming in now. Yeah, that's not what we really want to express or to experience, quote unquote. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer, for sharing that. It's so beautiful. Wow.
Mm,
I'm
mm,
so touched. And what seems to be appearing for me too is feeling these deep emotions and you know some patterning, some old patterning in the self identity. And but what's so beautifully being seen is that they appear and I feel them fully, but I don't hook into them. Like I don't make them into something like it's
mm,
like
mm,
good or bad, or I shouldn't be doing this, or but I'm like feeling it fully in that moment. And then it's just like there's nothing to hook it into something, making it into like a something, or it has meaning, or it has no meaning, or it's just a free movement of expression that shows up in that moment, and it's free to be fully expressed. And and it feels good. It's like humanness, real humanness without the identity of Deborah, you know?
mm.
And it's like, even though those patterns of Deborah still show up, but they're free to show up and be expressed. And, but the story drops around it, or the meaning, trying to make it into something, so yeah. So Jennifer, that sharing was so beautiful, especially about prayer, because if prayer shows up in the moment, that's it. Whatever shows up in the moment, that's it. And it's like that you did that. It's just like I love, love, love that story. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, it's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's sort of divinely blasphemous to say that everything is this. Yeah. It's so blasphemous because it absolutely defies any kind of categorization or tradition, you know. With dogma, I don't know the literal translation, definition for the word dogma. But if it was like a system of practice where you live your life by a certain set of principles, beliefs, etc., then this is total blasphemy because it does not allow itself that whatever this we could call it, even calling it a message makes it sound like an object. Of course, it defies that kind of objectification too. Nevertheless, for the sake of convenience and language. If we called it a message, it's surely the most blasphemous message out there, not because it's insulting or offending anyone or anything, but because it completely defies context, categorization, label, confinement. Yeah, you can't confine this. As soon as it gets confined, it's been compromised. It's been compromised. And that includes a so-called uncompromising message that people believe in. Yeah. And then, try to defend that belief and meet an opposition with that belief. All of that stuff is just game playing as far as I'm concerned, and I'm not interested. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry about that. Just feeling a bit fiery right now.
Well, as Jennifer's shirt says, let's rock and roll. Play, play, play. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Wild and free. Yeah. Yeah,
Perfect.
she's
Yeah.
rocking and rolling. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Silence Speaks Now. Welcome to everybody tuning in on YouTube, by the way. Silence Speaks Now and Abraxas. Welcome, lovelies. Silence Speaks Now says, because consciousness decided to play this game, they said this before I just said that. That's fun. We are being tormented by our own hallucinations. How many buckets of tears we shall shed for our delusions? Hmm. Yes, well, hallucinations can be tormenting and they can also be delicious. Um, yeah, they can be any flavor of emotion for sure. Yeah. But they don't have to be so hellish. Like just because there's no one doesn't mean that life has to be so tormenting and repetitively monotonously, in this hardship and suffering. It's not necessary, you know. But reality is uncontained and, as Jennifer's beautiful t-shirt says, wild and free. Absolutely. Yes, totally. Does the personality stay after liberation, or is this freedom? Yeah, so if you're talking about liberation as a so-called shifting of a so-called paradigm that believed that there was, such a thing as me living in a human body, I know that that sounds clunky as hell. Apologies for the clunky wording of it, but let's just clear that up. So the so-called liberation, which even liberation sounds quite grandiose as an event. It sounds like something quite special, something extraordinary, maybe something to wait for, or something to hope for, um, as well as enlightenment, or awakening. Or these words are very loaded, and they're beautiful words. Don't get me wrong. I'm not shunning them. I'm just saying that again, in the human psyche is susceptible to hearing those words, attaching connotations of specialness, and then in turn hoping for that as an experience that might come in the future. I point that out because that very energy of anticipating a better moment in the future from now is a kind of resistance to what's presently happening. And within that resistance is a kind of suffering. Yeah. It doesn't maybe see it that way, but that kind of energy is resistant to what's happening. And so all it is simply uh, uh, the paradigm that seems to inhabit the DNA. Well, maybe not the DNA, but the cells certainly. The cells of the body seem to be infused with certain beliefs and assumptions about reality, and me seems to be one of them. So when the body believes something, it can't actually tell that it's not real. It just can't. It can't seem to do that because it's not a rational. It's not a rational thing. The body is not apparently a rational thing. The brain might have that rational aspect to it, but the body doesn't seem to have, like the rest of the body doesn't seem to quite have that rational um, thinking aspect to it. So when the body seems to inhabit these beliefs about personhood, it can't actually tell that that's not real, which is why it's so convinced and convincing. So this so-called thing that we call liberation is simply the body ceasing to believe that anymore. Um, and that is a kind of visceral charge because every belief that seems to inhabit the tissues of the body does appear to have a kind of visceral charge to it. When the body really believes something, it will look for the truth of it. It will look. It doesn't know it's doing it, but it looks out for that truth. And it kind of hallucinates that truth in a way. I mean, reality is not as real, ironically, reality is not as real as we might think it is. The appearance or what is appearing is not as real as we might think it is. There is perhaps the assumption that everything I'm seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, and smelling is absolutely real. There might be that assumption that also lives within the body. And then we seem to go around looking for solid things. So every belief that lives in those tissues is, in a way, looking for the confirmation of its own truth in the so-called outside world. When the body ceases to believe that, it's kind of obvious or clear that there is no one. And it's obvious because there's no sense of autonomy for a start. There's no sense of a doer, there's no sense that someone is doing life or doing these words or doing the movements of the arms, the head, the legs, the rest of the body is it's very clearly just running itself and life is just lifing. Everything is in one, seamless and timeless flow of whatever it is appearing to be. So that's it's called liberation, which again is a little bit glorified, um, but I would prefer to perhaps call it a relief. It's a kind of relief where the body is simply allowed to be how it wants to be. It's not got this additional pressure of showing up to life a certain way. Life is just life. So that was a very, very long drawn out answer, and I haven't even answered the second part. Sorry about that. But yeah, does the personality stay after liberation? So, well, yes, yes. The so-called relief, the life carries on lifing. So it seems likely that a lot of the preferences that naturally and organically run through the body just carry on doing that. And some things might change. I mean, for many, they do. Yeah, like there will be some things that change. But what could that be? It depends what we're into. It depends who we hang out with and what we're about, so to speak, how we live our lives. Yeah. So a lot of things stay the same and some things change. I mean, for me, there was quite a lot of changes. But at the same time, quite a few things stayed the same too. So it just is. It just is. Yeah. How can the body believe? They go on to ask. That's a great question. Yeah, so I'm not talking about a belief as a linguistic thing that is showing up in in thoughts with language, because that's how we seem to conceive of conscious thoughts or the conscious mind activity. We think of the conscious mind as like perhaps an internal narrator or the rational part of our body and mind that seems to think about think things through, planning, abstracting. This is like what could be described as the masculine aspect of our being, which is very sort of rational and analytical. It thinks in ideas and memories and planning, etc. Obviously, that's all quite normal and natural. But I'm talking about the subconscious and the unconscious mind. And the thing is that the so-called conscious mind and the so-called subconscious mind are constantly reflecting each other, but they're like different expressions of the same thing. So the conscious mind is like those thoughts and ideas that could seem to be recognized and understood, perhaps, but the body expresses those thoughts and beliefs on a visceral level and an irrational level. Every single gesture and movement, every single communication, our speech, our facial expressions, our body language is conditioned by what we think, feel, and believe. It's an expression of our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, and they're deep in there. They're not rational beliefs. Uh, they're not rational anything. It's just pure, raw energy in that form. And you'd be surprised by how much that affects our entire landscape of life, as it were. Every single relationship, every single interaction in life, every single thing that happens is affected by that so-called internal landscape. Yeah. I mean, an example, quite a dynamic example is a panic attack. Yeah. So when the body is panicking, it literally thinks, feels, and believes that it is going to die. And it really, really believes it. But there's no threat. There's no threat. There's the heart, the lungs, everything is functioning fine. There's nothing around in the environment that's actually of any imminent danger, but the body completely believes it is at risk, that it is in danger. That's it. That's quite an intense example of the paradigm. When the body believes that it's in danger, there's a full-blown panic attack, and yet there's nothing, there's nothing actually threatening the body. So that's that's an example of it. Yeah, and it's so visceral. You tell someone, you just look at someone who's having that panic attack and just tell them to calm down. It's probably not going to be that effective, is it? It's not as simple as just telling someone to calm down. If they really feel, not just think, but feel that they're in danger, it's very visceral. Yeah, yeah. Now, of course, that is malleable. It can change and things can relax in the body. Yeah. Paradigms are malleable. They can they can shift and transmutate. Yeah. Thank you. It's hard to comprehend all of this. Yes. Yeah. Doesn't matter if you do, luckily. Yeah. Yeah. No need to believe or disbelieve or understand. No need to be getting down all of the concepts or scratching one's head, getting progressively more confused. It's all the play. why are we here just to suffer? I am sad for no reason. Well, you know, but for some people, it's a habit. Yeah, for some people, it is a habit. It's neither right nor wrong, but judgment might make that seem so. So when the judgment comes in, it says, I shouldn't be feeling this way, I should be feeling that way. Shoulds and shouldn'ts make all of this seem a bit more complicated, perhaps a lot more complicated, and perhaps also more heavy. But there, you know, no emotion is either right or wrong in the absolute sense. Everything is equally this, but that includes preferences too. So the preference to not feel sad, the preference to feel happy, is also a beautifully equanimous part of the whole. And so, if there is the preference for that, then there is the ability or the possibility, shall we say, of that happening, of that seeming to happen in the storyline. For some people, sadness is a habit, yeah, or any kind of emotional eruption that moves through the body, you know. Some people are identified completely with their emotions, identified as an angry person or a happy person, a sad person, a grieving person, a lazy person, a boring person, or a excitable person, you know. But there are no real labels or identities, and there isn't actually any separate self that stands behind them and wears the mask of me, because the persona is itself a mask. So they are malleable. Yeah, they are malleable. If one wants to be happy, although again, this is where we step more into a different kind of language. If there is the desire for happiness and for more happiness and less sadness and you know apathy in the nervous system, why can't that happen? Who or what is not allowing that? Yeah. It's of course it can happen. It's allowed. It's allowed as much as anything else. Yeah. We can sometimes think that because there's no one, therefore it just is the way it is. It doesn't mean anything, and there's nothing that can be done about it. And that is a tragic misinterpretation of this message. Yeah. Happiness is a habit too. Surprise! It is. It's not, you know, so sometimes we think that, you know, some people are happy and some people are sad, and that's just the way it is. And it's just all, you know, there's no cause to any of that, you know, like some people are just lucky and some people are unlucky. Some people are more fortunate. And it's like, you know, these are sort of, you know, second guessing assumptions that people project onto reality. But happiness is a practice. It can be practiced, like building a muscle, or you know, becoming more flexible, or having a diet. You know, like happiness can also be practiced. Yeah, like mindfulness or anything, painting, learning a language. Where attention goes, energy flows. Yeah. I thought recognizing my true nature would get me out of this world, but this is because I thought this isn't enough. Yeah, beautifully put. Many of us were sold that story, recognizing my true nature, or getting enlightened, finding the self, staying with the self, abiding with the self, or finding out there is no self. These are all sort of, you know, like finish line stories or pot of gold at the end of the rainbow stories. They're all based on the notion that this isn't enough and one day it will be. And that is all that is keeping the suffering alive, really. That seems to be the only thing that's keeping the suffering alive. I don't mean to reduce it to to like a thought process. It's actually as though the whole body believes that and assumes that one day and only one day. Yeah. And there's a not yetness in that assumption. Yeah. There's an existential anticipation of one day in the body, in the body. It's kind of, it's keeping itself alive, and it's a sort of, it's a dwelling in the not yetness that seems to be so uncomfortable about all of that, and it's completely unnecessary. Yeah, completely, completely unnecessary. Yeah, as though even that energy of anticipating change was just allowed to be and breathe. What's the problem? There isn't a problem. Yeah, you can be waiting around for that special event all you want. It's fine. There will never be an existential problem to be solved in the absolute oceanic reality. The openness of this is already everything. It's even you're waiting around for it in a conditioned experience. Yeah. After all this is over, we shall meet as one, or is it already over? Yes, there's no over. There's no one. There is only one. There is only oneness. Yeah. So everybody is oneness. Everything is oneness. Two-ness doesn't become oneness any more than oneness becomes two-ness. There is only oneness, and that can appear as two-ness, but there's no becoming really, not without timeline, and timeline is all of the play of light, yeah, the show that this could appear as perception, imagination, change, interpretation. These are mental fluctuations that give this reality a sense of dimension, a sense of becoming and changing. Yeah. There's no over, there's no arrival or departure, there's no beginning or end to this. This is edgeless, this has no before or after. This is open, it's completely open. Yeah. This what is. And all of those interpretations of closedness, constriction, next, before and after, past, present, future, etc., they're all like shards. They're like shards of a boundless vase that is actually not broken, but it can seem like separation. So nowhere to go, no thing to be done or undone or not done, nowhere to stay or remain or abide, to advance towards or retreat away from. No direction, no dimension, a lot of no's, and yet everything is yes. Everything is this glorious, impersonal, wild freedom, darkly and abundantly expressing as all of us, listening to these words and interpreting them and basking and bathing in our own already complete glory. Everything and everybody equally this freedom, just like beautiful waves on a boundless ocean that has no bottom, depth, or shore, no edge to that which is everything, completely full and free already. That is this, and this is that. Lots of love, everybody. Thanks all for hanging out. Thanks for having fun on the light
Thank
show.
you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Mwah.
Bye, everyone.
What time tomorrow?
Oh yes,
What?
6 p.m. 6 p.m. British
Okay,
Summer Time. Yeah,
got it.
yeah.
Cool. See you then.
Are you coming tomorrow, Deborah?
Oh,
Well, she's
Well,
off.
we'll see then, huh?
that was beautiful. Bing.
I love you too so much.
Oh,
Oh, we love you.
Oh,
really do love you, Janika. Gosh, that was beautiful you sharing that. Thank you as well.
it's
Mm.
amazing. It's crazy good.